A very, very beautiful Monday morning to you. Today is June 19th, 2023. And a warm welcome to the press, reaching you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Olamide Alhassan.
And before I say my name, Olamide, first of all, you should say, okay, first of all, Happy Father's Day should be in order.
Okay.
So I'll wait for you to say it before.
All right. Happy Father's Day to everyone out there. Well, every father out there and expecting fathers. Happy Father's Day to you all. We wish you great times and better times, more strength to continue to carry the burdens that you carry. We really appreciate you.
And you're welcome to the press, coming to you live from the Abuja studios of KAFTAN TV. Once again, happy Father's Day to all fathers out there, all prospective fathers. And need I say that you do not have to be a father biologically for you to celebrate the day. If you're a man and you have responsibility, you are shouldering your responsibilities, you have people who are looking up to you, you have people who are looking forward to that peanut you're earning, you have people who are getting their daily bread from that peanut you're earning, you should celebrate the day. Once again, happy Father's Day. Olamide, happy Father's Day to me.
Happy Father's Day to you.
Thank you. That was what I should have done earlier. You know?
Apologies, forgive me. Not because I didn't, not because it's irrelevant. It's a great day. In fact, I do not joke with my father to start with.
Definitely.
I shouldn't just. It's not a day to wish away. So
yeah, it's not a day. And for the very first time in a very long time. No, for the very first time that I am taking notes, this year's celebration felt different. Like, most times before now, most men do not even, maybe it's usually 3 days later, a week later, you start seeing photos, you start getting to know that last week was supposed to be Father's Day. But this time around, I started seeing a lot of anticipation about the day, even like a week before yesterday. So it felt more it felt gratifying anyways, because considering the fact that we usually celebrate about 322 Women's Day in a year. So if we make all the noise about just one Father's Day in the year, I think it's not bad. It's not bad.
Well, I think maybe the reason why this year's Father's Day had to be different is because a lot of things are going on right now. A lot of extra expenses, everything has gone higher, a lot of things are happening, and everybody knows that for my father to be able to foot that bill, or for my husband to foot this bill, or for this to be able to happen, then they've gone the extra mile. I think I was listening to a short comedy yesterday, and the little girl was singing for the mother, the usual mother praise songs and all of that, and the father said, shut your mouth. It's not time for you to start singing for fathers too. It seems like you only sing for mothers. And this only song that she had in her memory to sing for a father was a burial song, the song that they sing at funerals. And she was singing like, we're taking Papa home for his final exit. And the father was like, is that the only song you know in your head to sing? And she said, that's the only song I know for fathers in my head to sing. So the father converted the Mother's Day song and said, when you want to drink garri, who buys the sugar? She said, father. When you want to eat, who does this? She said, father. It was not like a call and response. It was like, do you now realize you have to appreciate your father too? She now said yes. And then happy Father's Day. It was beautiful to see. It was beautiful to see, because I think we're coming to a place of, it's not just the mother that labored alone. We have, most times people feel like, well, the mother went through the stage of giving birth and all of that. But trust me, there's also, after giving birth, there's what we call postpartum depression that most women tend to go through. And most fathers are the ones that hold their hands and walk them out of it. Mind you, the few minutes or few hours that the father is also outside the labor room, for an example, waiting for his child to be birthed, is also moment of life and death for him, because he's in that state of, will she survive, will she not, and I don't know what is going on in there. I don't know what's happening. Will she come out or not? You know,
and
there are lots of,
if she doesn't, I'm responsible for it.
Exactly. And at that point, he's already regretting a lot of things. There are lots of thoughts flying through the head. Now, this does not even have to do with whether the finance is available or not. So if there are complications, urgent financial needs are always expected. There are lots of pressures. I remember my brother was talking to me that he had to, they once asked him to do some sort of acknowledgement or some sort of commitment, like he had to sign some documents for his wife to get into the theater. So he was like, at that point he was scared. So I was like, oh, I didn't even think that men could go through all of this. So you can imagine, it was like he was scared. He wasn't sure if he should sign it. It was like an agreement, like, if this happens, this is it. And you know the way things can be sometimes. So they could tell you it's a 50-50 chance.
It's a 50-50
the person may not survive, the person may survive. So it takes a lot of courage even to be a father. It takes a lot of courage to be able to take care of your needs. It takes a lot of courage not to be able to chicken out, because now, growing up, we probably never understood the sacrifices our parents actually had to go through. That's not undermining the fact that there are lots of women also carrying the bills at home. That's not undermining any of that. But because we're celebrating Father's Day, we can always talk about the men.
Yes, I'd love to pick it up from the bills part. I was listening to a woman someday. You know, before now, the definition in our climb here now, the definition of being wealthy is you have big houses, you have big cars, you have a lot of money in your bank account. Yeah, and she came out and she said, I think last week, I've seen it before, but she came out and she spoke about it again. She said, right now, if your husband or your father can provide 3 square meals for you and the family, he can refill your cooking gas as and when due. He fuels his car, fuels your car, or fuels the family car as it may be, and also he pays for the cable TVs. That you are married to a wealthy man in the present day Nigeria. And nonetheless, I think we should begin to gravitate towards when we start saying, how would I put it? We should begin to move away from apportioning roles to genders. We should begin to see it more as a teamwork. More as a teamwork, because I think it's the gender roles that has made a lot of adults now grow up to see their mothers as, oh, if it was not because of my mother, I wouldn't have been here. Some will say if it was not because of my father, I wouldn't have been here.
True.
I think it should be, I cannot do without my parents.
Absolutely. The
effort my parents put in to get me to where I am is invaluable. I think that's how it should be. We should, and it has to be a conscious effort. I agree. From both parties. From both parties.
I agree, and I feel like, you know, the way they say charity begins at home. I feel like it begins with everybody. First of all, with your nuclear family.
Definitely.
It begins with what you can do at home, because it depends on how you raise that child.
Definitely.
And if you raise the child to understand that nothing is gender-based, I think they will tend to wake up and appreciate both genders.
Definitely.
So I think it's a step in the right direction. That's if most families are thinking in this line, because some persons still have this archaic knowledge, like this is for this and that is for that.
Yes.
And that's why children will always grow up and see their mothers as the only ones who sacrifice for them. They don't even see that, oh, my father too has gone out with uncertainty. You know, when you mentioned when they fill your gas as at when due, it's really, really, I don't know how best to put it, because that's like a bill that happens suddenly.
Like it doesn't give there's no
It doesn't give you
it doesn't there's no prior notice.
Exactly, especially when you're sitting there outside the house.
Even the cable TV, it's still
that's
still
something you would know
okay,
that is
because
coming.
you do it
But
today.
gas,
You already know around this time next month it will be due.
Sometimes you're sitting there, the gas gets exhausted before the due date, also because you may just have an estimation.
Definitely.
Or you can't even predict how much you have to cook.
Definitely.
And how much you've exhausted. So sometimes it just finishes early and sometimes finishes late. You just don't know, but he just comes as an unexpected.
There's something annoying about that cooking gas. It never finishes when you'd be able to rush out to get another.
It finishes on Sundays.
On Sundays, 10 p.m.
Anyways, happy Father's Day once again to every strong man out there. We appreciate you and we value you. All right, now, so let's give you a heads up on what we have for you on the press for today. We start with the weather forecast. Afterwards, we go with the national dailies. I'll bring a guest to analyze the stories we've just read out. So right now, beginning with the weather forecast, and on my desk we have Lagos State, the commercial hub of Nigeria. Beginning with Lagos State, on the average it says it's 27 degrees Celsius. It's cloudy. The highest is at 30 degrees Celsius and the lowest is at 25 degrees Celsius. And it says rainy conditions expected from 3 p.m. Now let's come back to the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. It says on the average it's about 24 degrees Celsius and it's going to be cloudy today, because the highest is at 29 degrees Celsius and the lowest is at 22 degrees Celsius. But thunderstorms expected around 2 p.m. So if you're in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, which applies to me, we have to be careful. And now to Kano State. On the average, we have 27 degrees Celsius and it's mostly cloudy. The highest is at 35 degrees Celsius and the lowest is at 24 degrees Celsius. And thunderstorms expected from 9 to 9 p.m. Wow, from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Thunderstorms. It's more like a sit-at-home Monday. Quite interesting. From 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. and again at 10 p.m. So let's just say from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. there are going to be thunderstorms. And for Port Harcourt, it says on the average is 25 degrees Celsius. It's cloudy. The highest is at 28 degrees Celsius and the lowest is at 23 degrees Celsius. And it says rainy conditions expected around 9 a.m. Now let's go to Kaduna State. On the average, it says it's 24 degrees Celsius. It's cloudy. The highest is at 30 degrees Celsius and the lowest is at 22 degrees Celsius. And thunderstorms expected from 9 to 11 and again at 12 noon. And finally to Imo State, it says 25 degrees Celsius on the average and it's drizzling currently. The highest is at 29 degrees Celsius and the lowest is at 23 degrees Celsius. And it says rainy conditions will continue all day as wind gusts are up to 15 kilometers per hour. And that's how we leave it for the weather forecast. Do well to take the necessary precautions.
And moving on with the Nigerian Tribune newspaper this morning, the big story here is reading CBN lifts cash deposits cap on domiciliary accounts. I take that again. CBN lifts cash deposits cap on domiciliary accounts, allows $10,000 withdrawal daily. That story is on page 6 of the Nigerian Tribune newspaper this morning. And above the nameplate we have please deploy mobile policemen to troubled Plateau local governments. Please deploy mobile policemen to troubled Plateau local governments. That story is on page 28. Saudi Arabia announces June 27 Arafat Day. NACON assures of completing airlift of Nigerian pilgrims on Thursday. That story is on page 5. And then beside the picture story, we have more felicitations as Eze Anaba emerges NGE president. More felicitations as Eze Anaba emerges NGE president. That story is on page 3. Bandits kill father, 4 sons in Zaria, rustle 100 cows. A very sad one there. We pray for the repose for the soul of the dead. That story is on page 27. Disclose pensions paid to you as ex-governors. Serap tells Akpabio orders in 10th Senate. That story is on page 22. Disclose pensions paid to you as ex-governors. Serap tells Akpabio orders in 10th Senate. That story is on page 22 once again. Qatar-based drug lords arrested as NDLEA intercept meth consignment at Lagos Airport. Qatar-based drug lords arrested as NDLEA intercepts meth consignment at Lagos Airport. That story is on page 27. And on page 26, we have Lagos government begins demolition of 17 distressed buildings in Alaba Market. Lagos government begins demolition of 17 distressed buildings in Alaba Market. That story is on page 26. It has to be
Alaba Market, Alaba International Market.
Definitely. And moving on to page 7, we have FG Malls assets rationalization, sale of refineries. FG Malls asset rationalization, sale of refineries. More details of that story can be found on page 7 of the Nigerian Tribune newspaper this morning. And then finally, on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune newspaper, we have I was poisoned, flown to Beirut, suffered kidney liver failure. This is coming from the former governor of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike. That story is on page 3 of the Nigerian Tribune newspaper this morning. And that will be all from the front page of the Nigerian Tribune newspaper for now.
And from the Tribune, we move to the Guardian newspaper for today. It says households under pressure as new electricity tariff due July 1st. I'm taking a deep breath because this is one amongst many other bills that has to be paid. Well, it says well. All right, so away from that, it says amid subsidy removal pains, experts advocate long-term benefits. Amid subsidy removal pains, experts advocate long-term benefits. And more of that details you find on page 3 of the Guardian newspaper. Professionals deploy high cost of treatment as World Sickle Cell Day holds. Professionals deploy high cost of treatment as World Sickle Cell Day holds. And more of that you find on page 3 of the Guardian newspaper. Force over bill to regulate Christian preaching. Force over bill to regulate Christian preaching. And more of that you find on page 4. Petrol subsidy. Government Labour resume negotiation on implementation framework. And more of that you'll find on page 6 of the Guardian. 10th National Assembly disclose pensions paid to you as ex-governors. Serap tells Akpabio orders. And more is on page 5. I was poisoned at PDP office. Suffered liver kidney failure, says Wike. And more details you find on page 29. Well, that's where we leave it for the Guardian newspaper for today. I'll let you pick a copy to find out more of what the picture story has in store.
And on the Nation newspaper this morning, we have Akpabio Abbas. Lawmakers will back Tinubu to deliver. Lawmakers will back Tinubu to deliver. And the riders to the story on the front page of the Nation newspaper this morning reads, we are here to work, says First Lady. Orderly rates President's performance high. We are here to work, says First Lady. Orderly rates President's performance high. And above the nameplate we have overloading windy rain. Overloading windy rain cause of Kwara boat tragedy. That story is on page 27 of the Nation newspaper. Banks tighten forex process to block racketeering. That story is on page 13. And on page 5 we have South African displaces Dangote as Africa's richest. South African displaces Dangote as Africa's richest. That story is on page 5. Super Eagles qualify for AFCON 2024. That story is on page 30. Congratulations to the Super Eagles of Nigeria. Central Bank lifts restriction on domiciliary accounts. That story started on the front page and continued on page 4 of the Nation newspaper this morning. As bulldozers roar in Alaba, Ohaneze cautions against fake news. As bulldozers roar in Alaba, Ohaneze cautions against fake news. That story is on page 20 of the Nation newspaper this morning. And that'll be all from the front page of the Nation newspaper this morning. Do also pick a copy from any vendor near you for more details.
And now let's go to the Daily Trust newspaper. The Daily Trust says 4 days to go. Over 15,000 Nigerian programs yet to be airlifted. 4 days to go. Over 15,000 Nigerians yet to be airlifted. NACON, AHUON activate rescue flights. Tour operators intending pilgrims lament. Sultan declares June 28th as Eidil Kabir. More of that you find on page 4 of the Daily Trust. Tinubu's Advisory Council recommends sale of refineries, other assets, and that's on page 24. Nigerian farmers have been victimized, coming from former President Olusegun Obasanjo, and more you'll find on page 34. CBN lifts restrictions on domiciliary accounts, allows $10,000 daily withdrawals. CBN lifts restriction on domiciliary account, allows $10,000 daily withdrawals, and that's on page 4. Now, away from that, homeowners cry out as Kano government marks houses for demolition. Well, that's more of that you find on page 6. How Nigeria can leverage tech to solve housing problem. You find more details of that on page 28. 2 killed, houses, shops burned in Plateau State, and that's on page 32. And finally, on the Daily Trust newspaper, some sports stories. So, Osimhen hits brace as Super Eagles qualify for 2023 AFCON. We look forward to a greater time for AFCON. I don't know if you're looking forward to it.
Definitely, I'm looking forward to a surprising outing at the AFCON 2024 from the Super Eagles. I'm saying surprising because looking at their performances, especially since the new manager took charge of the team, talking about Sepeseru, their performances has not been mind-blowing. So it dampens my expectations. But then, in our usual manner in Nigeria, we always hope for the best. We always hope for a last-minute turnaround in every situation. So
miracles happen, yeah.
Miracle, no, they tire Jesus.
Of course. And I'm sure we're putting in the hard work necessary.
Okay.
Trust me.
Yeah. I still wish them all the very best, and congratulations to them.
Yeah, that's how we'll leave it for the Daily Trust newspaper.
All right, now for some punchy headlines on the Punch newspaper this morning, we have Subsidy. Labour threatens strike, resumes talks with FG. Labour threatens strike, resumes talks with FG. Pains becoming unbearable, strike suspended, not called off. Coming from the NLC and the TUC. That story is on page 2 of the Punch newspaper this morning. And above the nameplate, we have CBN removes saving withdrawal limits on domiciliary accounts. CBN removes savings withdrawal limits on domiciliary accounts. That story is on page 35. NUT lambasts government as teacher shortage rises. That story is on page 2. Power project. FG secures $750 million World Bank loan. That story is on. And just before I continue, the first loan in the President Tinubu era. We can only hope for the best, and like I usually say, irrespective of who is the president, irrespective of who the leader is, as journalists, we're always going to be here to put out the information, and we're always going to be here to commend whoever is delivering on the mandate, and we're always going to be here to do the needful.
Absolutely.
You are not repaying the trust of the people. So we'll keep our fingers crossed to see how well they utilize these loans, because looking at the loans the former administration left behind, and looking at this, it's just mind-boggling. But we'll keep our fingers crossed to see how it goes. FG secures $750 million World Bank loan. That story is on page 34. And the picture story here, we have NDLEA nabs Qatar-based drug barons, seizes cannabis. That story is on page 16. And on page 16 still, we have bandits kill Kaduna Fulani chief, 4 children, steal 100 cows. That story is on page 16. Custom arrests Kebbi man, sees 64 million naira smuggled items. That story is on page 4. And finally, on the front page of the Punch newspaper, we have operator overloaded ill-fated boat with 250 passengers. That story is on page 14. A very sad one there. A passenger, and it's very common in Nigeria, both with the public transport system. You see a car that is supposed to be lifting 3 people, maximum 4 people. You find 6 people. You see 2 people sitting in the front, which is not actually meant to be. But then it's still quite understandable for.
You know why I'm smiling?
Okay.
I think the cars are even better. Have you seen the way the bikes overload themselves?
Okay.
Too? See, sometimes I wonder, do these people have fear for their lives or not?
Definitely.
Because any little error could just send them crashing on the ground.
These cars and bikes, they are overloaded, which is already bad enough. And you see how carelessly they drive or ride on the road. Just makes you begin to wonder if these people have an extra life somewhere. Honestly. All right, now, operator overloaded ill-fated boat with 250 passengers. This is coming from Naiwa. That story is on page 14, and we'll leave it there on the front page of the Punch newspaper for now.
And now to the Daily Sun newspaper for today. It says gunmen attack ex-Imo governor Okorocha, kill police officer, convoy attacked in Imo State. And that you find on page 4. Beside the nameplate, IPOB, Masob, Kanu's family slam Asari. I'll take that again. IPOB, Masob, Kanu's family slam Asari Dokubo, accuse him of being government informant. And that's on page 27. Nigeria takes over ILO leadership, receives global accolades. And that's on page 25. Southeast bids for Senate majority leaders post. And that's on page 10. Rada says why APC can't ignore region again. Away from that, how I survived poisoning at party's campaign in 2018. How I survived poisoning at party's campaign in 2018. That's coming from Wike, and that's on page 6. NDLEA nabs 2 Qatar-based drug lords with meth consignment at MMIA, the Muritala Mohammed International Airport, and that's on page 4. Bill Gates to meet Nigerian leaders, businessmen, others. That's on page 27. That's a beautiful one. And Bishop urges fathers to stand firm as pillars of families. I guess that's in response for Father's Day. And Ryder says that though Deputy Governor Shaibu applauds roles, and that's on page 26. Controversy rages over police pension bill. Operators ask Tinubu to reject bill, and that's on page 25. And finally, on the Daily Sun newspaper, Imo PDP crisis deepens as SWC members resign. Imo PDP crisis deepens as SWC members resign, and that's on page 27. And that's where we leave it for the front page of the Daily Sun newspaper for today.
And just before we go on with the Vanguard, okay, on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper this morning, we have cabinet infighting as APC camps pitch for ministerial jobs. Infighting as APC camps pitch for ministerial jobs. And Olamide, interesting times lies ahead, talking about what the ministerial appointment of President Tinubu would look like, because already there are certain persons, there are certain dignitaries, persons rather, that ordinarily you would have thought they will be appointed as ministers, and already they have been appointed as special advisors. So, like,
what would the ministers now look like?
What the ministers will look
but
like.
I
so,
think from history has it that while he was a governor, he had more persons in his, special advisors cabinet, like, they are closer, sort of. So I think history has it that he works more with his advisors before the ministers. So that would probably, be the reason why those that people expect to be his ministers are now his special advisors. So I think it's just possible.
We keep our fingers crossed. And the writer says, lobbyists besiege Aso Rock. President may send list to Senate July 4. Special advisors may supervise ministers. And moving on, we have Kwara boat mishap. Naiwa blames windy rain, overloading for lack of navigation aid. I'll take that again. Naiwa blames windy rain, overloading, lack of navigational aid. That story is on page 41 of the Vanguard newspaper. NGE President Atiku Saraki Oyebanji Sanwo-Olu congratulate Eze Anaba. And then moving on, we have electricity. 58% of consumers without meters. NERC, the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Council. That story is on page 8. 24 hours curfew declared in Plateau local government. That story is on page 13. Islamization comment. El-Rufai should be invited by DSS. That story is on page 9. And we have manufacturers spend 144.5 billion naira on self-generated power in 1 year. That story, you can see the story on the inside page of the Vanguard newspaper this morning. And moving on to other stories now, we have 10th Senate disclose pensions paid to you as ex-governors. Serap tells Akpabio orders. Subsidy removal, stabilize economy before new minimum wage. NECA tells FG. That story is on page 9. Forex, allow customers free access to domiciliary accounts, funds, CBN or by others banks. That story is on page 8 also. And moving on, we have economy, Nigerians power generators with cooking gas. Nigerians power generators with cooking gas. And on page 6 we have bandits kill local chief, his 4 children in Kaduna. Bandits kill local chief, his four children in Kaduna. That story is on page 6. And finally, on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper, we have Villarreal demand 13 billion naira for Chukwueze. Villarreal demand 13 billion naira for Chukwueze. You may want to pick up a copy of the Vanguard newspaper to get details of that story. And that'll be all from the front page of the Vanguard newspaper for now.
All right, viewers, let's go on a quick break. We'll return to be joined by guests for further analysis of the headlines we've just read out to you. Do not forget our phone lines will also be open for you to call in and make your contributions known. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Now, if you're just joining us, you're still on to the press, coming to you live from the Abuja studios of KAFTAN TV. Right about now, we have Femi Jubal, the president of the Brothers Lifting Brothers Foundation, with whom we are going to be doing the analysis to some of the headlines we have read to you. Happy Father's Day is in order.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Lee, for having me once again.
You're welcome, Femi. Now I understand where the back end conversation was coming from. Brothers Lifting Brothers.
Yeah. Okay, we lift ourselves.
Yeah, we lift ourselves, and we also lift the women who who knows the value,
who love them. Yeah.
Yes,
because the mission actually is to facilitate and encourage various forms of education, orientation, economic empowerment, social welfare, and the mental health of boys, men, and the women who love them.
I like that.
Don't love us.
All right, now let's talk about, so let's discuss some national issues. The subsidy is definitely hitting hard on all Nigerians at the moment. And right now, the NLC, the TUC, they have said the strike was not called off. It was only suspended. And right now, they are threatening to go on strike again because of the what, according to them, the hardship that the fuel subsidy has come with, talking about the hike in transportation, the increase in prices of commodities in the market. Now, a lot of Nigerians are questioning the credibility of our trade unions. I'm talking about the NLC, the TUC, because for the past few years, we have seen the NLC threaten strike and nothing happens. We have seen the TUC threaten strikes and nothing happens. Nigerians are now asking, what should Nigerians have any form of faith, believe in these unions, that these people are really standing for us before the government?
Now, the thing is, we must first understand that when it comes to government, there is diplomacy. There has to be negotiations. Because people think that, you know, the way we gather together in a place, we argue, and this one says, I will not agree, will not agree. That's the same way it applies. It applies.
Yeah, but sorry to cut you. That negotiation now, it's exactly what Nigerians are questioning. Exactly. Now, are they negotiating? Nigerians are saying, are you negotiating in our interest? Or you are negotiating at the interest of what
exactly
favors you?
One of the loopholes in the Nigerian ecosystem when it comes to institutions, agencies, whether it's private, public, even NGOs, is trust. You know, people no longer trust anybody.
Yeah, there's trust deficit.
Because there are too many personal interests involved. So some people actually will tell you that NLC will go and meet them now, they will give them money, or forget about it. But we don't know, we're not there. You know, and the way the NLC, TUC are going about it is also very important. Now, one of the things personally I believe that should be pushed for now is we have agreed that subsidy needs to be removed. It is like the hole in the pocket of the treasury where some people are, you know, getting rich on our collective, at the expense of collective wealth. So that is settled. So now the next thing that needs to be done by the government is the minimum wage needs to be increased. Okay. Yeah, people need to be able, because people are actually suffering. So definitely, a government that is sensitive and have some empathy will actually, you know, there has to be some incentives. I've said this a couple of times. People think it was a joke. The government needs to do some social welfare thing for people at this point, honestly. Like, look, there is a research that said over 80% of Nigerians don't even have up to 100,000 naira in their bank accounts. Send 100,000 naira to all those accounts, make sure that it is transparent and properly done. In the next 3 months, they won't disturb you. And then you can now orientate them on why subsidy needs to be removed and some other things we're working on. But this idea of you just bring a policy, as beautiful as it is, come on, bro, people are suffering. These days, I spend 45K on my car every week. I used to spend like 20,000 naira. There are many people who can't even go out because of this.
Definitely.
All right, because you said the federal government should, as one of your solutions, probably credit some of these accounts with 100,000 and in the next 3 months. But you know, there are times that you don't solve people's feeding needs. Rather, you give them empowerment. Don't you think so? Because there are people that, I think I was having a conversation with a lady and she said there are people that will always call you for urgent 2,000 naira because they probably just want to fill their gen and sleep for the comfort of now. There are people that 100,000 is just to give a comfort of now. So trust me, in the next 2-3 days, there's going to be an uproar again for more. And do you not think that somehow the economy needs to be stable before we start thinking of some of these things?
Okay, now the thing is, I believe that nothing is impossible. There's a solution to every problem. Now there are long-term solutions, there are short-term solutions, and desperate times require desperate measures. If someone comes to me and tells me, I am hungry, I'm not going to tell them about economic empowerment. I'm going to find a way to make sure that they eat. So Nigerians are at that state where you need to just, you know, give them a soft landing. I know that the government of Tinubu, I believe so much in this government. There are some structures that will be put in place to alleviate poverty, empowerment systems and ideas in place. But now, the people are hungry. The people are suffering, especially from this subsidy removal. They need some kind of incentive, something to give them a soft landing, like, oh, okay, thank you, government. We know that you are sensitive to our plight.
But you know, there's this $800 million that is supposed to be splitted, you know, to cushion the effect of the subsidy removal. But at the end of the day, the questions that most people have been asking is, how would these funds be disbursed? Will it be transparent enough? You know, let's quickly take this call before we proceed. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Hello, good morning. You're welcome to the press. Please tell us your name and where you're calling from. Okay, please join the conversation, Mr. Collins.
Please, I want to thank you all, more especially the way people are making us to be enlightened in some of those things that is affecting us.
Thank you too for always tuning in.
Like the analyst, you see, let the Labour Party and all the other parastatals, let us just leave us as peaceful as we want now.
Okay.
We are getting used to the subsidy removal now. What we are looking up to is what we are going to do with the subsidy or whatsoever they are going to recover from that subsidy of a thing. Now, if you look to it now, okay, last year before December, I think we bought fuel in my place here up to 600 naira per liter, 580 something, 570 something. Now it has come to stay that the subsidy has been removed. And we are buying it at the rate of 540. Now nobody is complaining. Let the NLC and every other people, let them just leave us. Let's have our peace. Our problem is to make sure that all these products are available to us.
All right.
And another thing is because the problem we are even having more now is because of the NEPA, the electricity aspect.
Okay.
If you look at the tariff they bring to my yard now, there are people living in my house that they cannot eat a square meal a day. Each person is to pay no less than 1,500. How much are we paying for house rent? A house rent here, a room, a month is 2,500. We are paying house rent, NEPA bill 1,500. The most problem now is the NEPA, the tariff.
All right.
So let them do something about it.
All right. Thank you very much.
I'm looking up to something concerning the governors of a thing. Why is it people that happens to have served the state or the government for over 35 years, they are not paying them their pension or their gratuity? And somebody that come as a governor that just work for 8 years, loot our money and they are still paying them. What of those that even get to the Senate? Are they still going to collect this pension of a thing as a governor, ex-governor?
All right. Thank you very much.
They have to do something right. We are all getting angry now.
All right. Thank you for your thoughts, Benue, Collins from Benue State. We appreciate you.
Now you can see the last caller, the human thing came up here. Like if he said that we should let the subsidy be, just leave the government, probably because it doesn't affect him. But now he's talking about the electricity that probably affects him. So we don't look at our problems holistically.
And the tariff is going to get higher, but
it's going to get higher. So, but the fuel, wants us to leave that alone. So what solved this problem from a holistic perspective is that the government needs to give people a soft landing. People will come, some economists will come and tell you blah blah blah. As Canada, America, they were giving their citizens thousands of dollars as incentives during the COVID. So there is no excuse for that, and it is possible in Nigeria, based on all the revelations we are seeing these days, how much money people have stolen. The government needs to step in and give people some social welfare thing for that, so that I can serve them for like 3 months. If the government gives some people 100,000 naira, they will pay their electricity bill in the next 4 months, while they are promising them the long-term solution to this desperate problem.
With 100,000 naira, I'm very certain some women in the suburbs will start something.
Exactly.
Will start
we have the capacity. We have the capacity
with 100,000. All right, now let's move on to other stories now. As it's no longer news that we have a new administration right now, and the cabinet is yet to be constituted, still under construction, let me use that word. And the story here on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper is saying, infighting as APC camps pitch for ministerial jobs. I want to take it from this perspective. If we look at the President Tinubu's appointments so far, if we look at the names, one would wonder, these are names that were being projected for ministerial positions. People like Dele Alake, people like Wale Edun, Nuhu Ribadu, who was being projected as the next National Intelligence NIA. Now, what are your expectations for this, for his list? What are your expectations for the new cabinet that's yet to be constituted? Because if we are looking at some names that ordinarily Nigerians were projecting, he should be getting a ministerial slot due to his antecedents and capacity, and he's there as a special advisor right now. Definitely, he's going to be working more closer to the president.
Exactly, and you just said it, because this is the first thing. The disclaimer: I am not an APC member. Okay, I just have a level of confidence in Bola Ahmed Tinubu. I have that confidence in him, and he has proven that in less than 1 month. Okay. Now, the ministerial position, these are people who are a bit farther from him compared to the essays. The essays. One person I wanted to see in this government was No Ribadu, and I thought he was going to be a minister. But Tinubu played the Jagaban, strategy on us and made him a special advisor. Yeah. So because those are the people in his inner caucus. So now one of the qualities of a leader is selective team, and when you check his antecedents, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, he is very, very good at that. So if the people he has chosen at the moment, the appointments, is proof that we should expect something that would wow us when it comes to the ministerial positions. Yeah.
Anyways, we just hope that as much as people are so optimistic about this government, it just keeps playing out to be. Because I think I saw the stocks market. I saw the rise in the stocks market, and it looked really positive. But regardless of that, I saw this headline that says that you should sell the refineries and not, think of innovating them. So do you think this would actually help the economy? Because we're talking about, refining our own products instead of, taking it out. And people are also looking at it from the angle of, if Dangote Refinery is going to be supplying us with the fuel we need, Dangote is a businessman. So he would also be thinking of selling at, and making profits. Exactly. Selling at his own rate and making profits, selling to other people outside the country as well and making profits. So if our refineries are sold into private hands, does it mean that we're getting anywhere? I think we are putting too much faith in this Dangote refinery. I'm not saying that, it's not going to help us somehow. But the other thing is the government cannot completely, privatization is not a bad idea, but government cannot completely let go of everything while they don't have control of, few things. So to give them a level of leverage. Okay. So selling other refineries, for me personally, it doesn't make any sense. Let's beef them up. Let's bring them upstream so they can work, so there can be a level of competition. Because Dangote is, the monopoly is going to be crazy if you leave it just to Dangote. Dangote is going to be exporting oil. So, and he wants to make money. He's a businessman. He's a businessman. He wants to make money. But if we look at it from if we look at the Nigerian refineries over the years, billions of dollars has been allocated to revamping these refineries, and nothing keeps, even the crude oil they refine there. Most times is not even enough to cater to the daily consumption of a state in Nigeria. Yet billions of dollars are being allocated to revamping it yearly. People are retiring there and are still getting getting pensions. People are working there, are going on courses all on the government over a refinery that is not working. Don't you think privatizing them and having them function so that it will be another means by which the government will create some kind of a competition with the Dangote refinery? Don't you think it's... All right, sorry, apologies. Let's quickly take this call before you answer that question. Hello, good morning.
Hello?
Good morning. Good morning. You're welcome to the press. Please tell us your name and where you're calling from.
Yes, my name is Mr. Balagana.
All right, you're calling from?
I'm calling from Niger State.
All right, please join the conversation, Mr. Bala.
I want to make a contribution, especially in response to what your guests there say.
Okay.
You talk on this ministerial. Yes, I have also confidence in you that you will do it. As a result of that list, especially the ministerial list that we are talking about, which is yet to come out, I think Tinubu has less power there. That's the list of ministers. He has less power. He has limited people that is going to choose, because the list used to come from state. This state used to have at least one. That is 136 states. That's how they used to do the nomination committee. They have represented was that these are the governors has power in that area. He said we nominate somebody that want to stand with represent also the result, and some states you have to two.
Okay.
But at least one. There are no there used to have federal share, but which is very, very few. Tinubu will have that, so it doesn't have much. So if the minister did not perform very well, that we will not blame. But those who did not perform well, they can remove them later.
All right, no problem.
So the list used to come from the state. If they have at least one, every state will have representatives.
All right.
That's how they used to do the list of ministers. They will send it to Indonesia. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Balaga. No, thank you. All right, back to your question. You may want to give him a reminder of your question.
So I was talking about, instead of leaving these refineries dormant and monies keep being appropriated to it every year, is it not don't you think it's a better idea privatizing it to create competition with and the government now just serves as a regulatory
of course there's BOA, is it BOA or BOA? Their refinery is going to be launched maybe next year or so. So there will definitely have some private organizations come up with to compete with Dangote. But what I'm saying is the government cannot just remove their hands from everything and say okay, privatization. What that does is it empowers individuals and then leaves government with nothing to actually make decisions, because you have to have a hold on some things for you to make policies without thinking you have to kiss anybody's
so what about having stakes in the business, like 20% stake as with Dangote Refinery?
That's another thing, because the transparency in the country is not that they say stakes. Who does that benefit at the end of the day?
All right, let's move away from that. There's this story that made the wave over the internet during the weekend. Asari Dokubo's statement. But let me quickly take this call before I do. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Please tell us your name and where you're calling from. All right, please join the conversation.
Remind the analyst.
Okay.
There is a statement he made just now after I made a call. I'm just a common farmer.
Sorry.
Are you hearing me?
Can you be a bit more audible?
Are you hearing me now?
Very well now.
You say I'm not affected by the fuel subsidy of 15 and the only tariff that I'm complaining of. No. There are certain things that you might have to forgo. If you look to it now, the most problem we are having is our politicians, they are using the 48 laws of power against the market. If you look at the chemical we used to buy, we farmers now used to buy at the rate of 900, 1,200, 1,008. Now we are buying them. There is one you buy 6,000 naira now. How many farmers could afford it? How much are they selling our products? You look to all these things, there are so many things that have gone wrong. And if you look to what this man, I'm an APC person, but I hate this man with passion, formally. But the level he was walking now, there is no man, even Obi himself that is fighting in the court now, happens to see that this man is right. He has come to make sense more than the former government. The people is really trying, really making sense.
Okay, thank you very much.
All these things, it happens that our previous government have back what is tackling now will not remain like this. Look at somebody, one person alone is looting the sum of 89 trillion naira. So this man is trying. Let's just give him a chance. And there are certain things we need to give him a chance so that we'll see at least within the 6 months of his ruling before we start engaging in one thing or the other that he doesn't do that.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you for your contribution.
When it's just give him a chance, because active citizenship there is no timeline to it. He wants us to wait until after 1 year before we start holding government accountable. No, you have to hold government accountable based on every policy.
Absolutely.
So we cannot wait and give them a chance. I'm not saying that the government is not trying. So far, I have confidence. But what I'm saying is, the policy, as beautiful as it is, the summary is the government needs to be a bit sensitive and give people some form of social welfare plan.
All right. So back to the headline I was going to read out. Says IPOB Masob Kanu's family Islam Asari Dokubo accused him of being government informant. And do not forget that over the weekend he also made statements that the military are involved in 99% of the oil theft. So, and there's been different, comments after comments upon comments after that time. He addressed the media. So I'd like to take your thoughts on that.
Sani Abacha said that if insurgency lasts for longer than 24 hours, the government or the military is involved. So there are some things that can't just happen, like oil thefts. Do you know the level of that crime means that there has to be some power broker influence. It's an organized crime of people who can make the law, break the law, and then nobody holds them accountable. So that may be true. I don't have an evidence, but at the end of the day, we know there is oil theft, and then you can't just have common citizens go and do that. There is bunkering. There are people who also break pipes. Pipeline vandalization. Definitely. But when it comes to this major, we all know. Let's not say it because you don't want to face the consequences.
Okay. The big one happened yesterday. I'm very, very intentional about this, and I know Olamide is trying to wonder what exactly is the big one. The Father's Day happened yesterday, and
we love men. We celebrate men.
Yeah, the Father's Day awesome. Happened yesterday, and for the very first time in a very long time, maybe for some, but for me, for the very first time in my entire existence here on earth, I saw a Father's Day celebration that came with a lot of celebrations, like when the men were celebrated more than what we have always had. First of all, what's your take on the whole of the whole situation?
Now, first and foremost, I'm very excited. I told you about the global stats this morning that yesterday's Father's Day is the most celebrated and the most published Father's Day in the last 50 to 100 years.
Wow.
So now it means that men are beginning to wake up. It takes a strong man to build a country. Now, we cannot deny the fact that there is an attack against masculinity.
Why would you say
that in a patriarchal society?
No, the thing is, when people say patriarchal society, you are talking about the metrics. The men who are benefiting from this system are not more than 1 to 2%. Your husband is probably a victim of these same metrics, your brother, your cousin, your nephew. So, because men bring direction, we bring discipline to society. And society wants to go into anarchy. Now, these metrics, the 1 to 2% of people who want to control the world, they know that for them to succeed in doing this, they have to take men out. Because the weaker men are in a society, the weaker the society. So I'm glad that men are beginning to, wake up to the fact that you have to celebrate yourselves. We never had this, men have been taught that burnout, work, be everything to everybody. Even if they don't appreciate you, it's okay, you are a man, just take it. No, it is so wrong. So now men are beginning to see it as, no, I have to, if you don't celebrate me, I'll celebrate myself. And I think it is that mental revolution that brought about yesterday's amazing celebration all over the world. Okay,
so my question to you would be, so who's to be blamed for this narrative that men have?
It's society, and somehow some men bought into it. Now, ideas have to be sold.
Now, if it's a society, who are the society? Okay,
so now the thing is, let us not deny the fact that in the past, a lot of women are victims of masculinity gone wrong. The patriarchy system has been hurtful to a lot of women. Now, but what they don't understand is that the patriarchy system itself, not all men are benefiting from it. It's just a few men. The other men are working hard, fathers, brothers, they're trying to make ends meet, take care of their family and all that. So if women come to that understand, they will understand that it is we against the metrics, not you against every man. How many men have $100 million in their bank account? How many men shut down countries during COVID? Just a few percentage of men. So it is us against them. And the idea is, if my father is weakened, your father is weakened, the men in our community are weakened. Look at Afghanistan, for instance. When America invaded Afghanistan, you were bombing people and doing all that for frivolous and special interest reasons. And the men said, no, you cannot continue to do this to us. And they said, we will bomb you too, suicide bomb. So the men in Afghanistan woke up and said no. So society, if men are weak in a society, then the future of that society is bleak.
But now, okay.
So you think this has to do with you mentioned a matrix, we against them? Who are these them in your context?
Okay, you're talking about people, we don't have enough time. You're talking about all these big names in different sectors, in the tech, there are many people who have been, in the media, there are people who have been promoting healthy masculinity, for instance. Look I was shocked when people like Professor Jordan Peterson, who teaches men how to be men, was actually cancelled on social media. So you can imagine that. So the point is, we cannot afford to have men remain strong. We have to feminize them. And one of the ways they are doing this is to promote this idea of toxic masculinity. There is no such thing as toxic masculinity. It is just an idea propagated by these people to just label masculinity as evil. A woman is yin-yang. There are two energies. They must complement each other. So, but they want to have a society that does not have direction, no discipline, so it can be as chaotic as they want. Because if the men in a society, if all men in Nigeria stands up right now and say no to corruption, it is no to corruption. If we say no to this, it is no to that. But the moment men are pushed to a corner of silence, and that's what you are saying in the global community, the moment they are pushed to a corner of silence, then the metrics will have their way, and that's exactly what is happening now.
But now you've spoken so much about the metrics, and someone watching at home will be wondering what exactly these metrics are, because just like you're saying that a lot of men has been pushed into silence, and it's quite it won't be surprising to know that those men will not even know that they have been pushed into silence. So you may want to shed some light on what these metrics are. And when you talked about a lot of men are now waking up, is it just about the fact that, okay, because men have now decided to say that if we are not being celebrated, we are going to celebrate ourselves? Should they just stop at that?
Now the matrix is in simple terms. You have power brokers. I don't call them elites. I call them tyrannical elites. And they are in different sectors. In tech, for instance, they are the people who can cancel you if they think that you are confronting propagandas and ideas that are not healthy for society. They can cancel anybody in the tech community. They can cancel you in the medical field. They can cancel you in the clinical psychological field, in finance, in banking, in the oil sector. So these are the power brokers and the power players. So that's why they use the term called the metrics for them.
Apologies, I would like you to hold your thoughts. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You're welcome to the press.
This is Hugo from Monitor.
All right, please join the conversation.
I just want to share my mind on.
Oh, I think he mistakenly held the call. Okay, so back to the conversation.
What I say is that I posted something. Now men often talk about this idea of they have taken our power from us. Nobody took our power from us. We gave our power away. A lot of men are involved in things that do not empower their healthy masculinity. Go to social media, for instance. You see, men are involved in things that take their power away. You're an adult male, so it means that you have the power and the audacity to say, no, I'm not going to do this. Like, I'm not boasting. You won't see me on a girl's TikTok watching you dance. It does not empower my masculinity. So men, what we have right now is men are now trying to play the victim in society, and that's not masculine. So because now it is women, it is only women that are getting the benefits. No, you are the one giving your power away.
Now I'm going to cut you there.
Yes.
So what is the big deal in being on TikTok and watching a woman dance?
How does watching a woman dance on TikTok benefits me as a man?
So are you saying you only work, or a man just works and never gets to entertain himself?
A man doesn't just work. Now, a woman dancing on TikTok is not just dancing on TikTok. A woman dancing on TikTok there's something called energy vampire. She is taking a lot of your energy because she is propelling her sexuality to you. And as a man, you are just engrossed in that when you could be writing a document or doing, or even playing with your kids. So it's not about don't have fun. That's
no,
what
you're
I'm saying.
talking about a man who's married.
Even
Now
if
we're
you're not
talking about
married.
even you're married.
If you're not
Because you
married-
said you could be playing with your kids.
Okay, if you're not married, I'm not married. There are stuff I can do. I can listen to some nice music, some jazz, watch a nice movie that I will learn something from. That's another form of entertainment. So men need to get involved more in things that would empower their masculinity. And not just that, men must belong to communities of other men. It's very hard for men to belong to a community. Why do you think the feminist movement is growing at an exponential rate? Women have this thing about them. They want to belong to a community that promotes anything women agenda. But men pull back. They don't want to belong to it. You need to have male friendships that are beneficial, strategic, healthy, and then will help you grow.
Now you talked about men, the need for men to belong to healthy societies, that
Communities.
communities. Now, you know, there are lots of organizations, NGOs that promote initiatives for the girl child, for women generally, but very few for the
Boys.
For the boys. Now, what role do you think the government can play in this regard? Because we have the Ministry of Women Affairs.
I'll start with this. The girls we empower will live in the same society as the boys we neglect.
Okay, in 60 seconds.
Yeah,
We're
the
time.
girls we empower will live in the same society as the boys we neglect. So we are empowering girls, but they will live in the same society with the rapist if you neglect the boys. So we also need to focus on the boys. And like I said, I am expecting this administration. We have always had Ministry of Women Affairs. It is time for us to have a Ministry of Men Affairs that caters to men. We're not robots, we're not spirits. We also need some mental, spiritual, financial support from the government, from our family members and all that. But we have given into this idea that you are a man, you can deal with it.
All right, are you just leaving it on the shoulders of the government alone? What about the immediate families?
Exactly, definitely. But you know, men have been trained, don't ask for help. So to even ask for help, but that's not in the Brothers Civil Rights community, for instance, we promote this idea of be open. Ego and judgment will take you nowhere. If I need help, I'll ask me, help me, my brother.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's been a wonderful time talking
Thank
to
you
you
so much.
on the program today, and we must thank you for sparing out your time to be on.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you. I always enjoy my time whenever I can.
Always
Thank
a
you,
pleasure.
Mr. Femi.
And this is where we draw the curtain on today's episode of the program. My name remains Francis Adeniyi. Do well to have a beautiful day ahead.
And I am Olamide Alhassan. We'll see you again tomorrow. Bye.